basketball team's the powerhouse. The football team's better, but where do you think they go from here? What do you think they have to do to make it to a perennial powerhouse?
It's tough to be a perennial powerhouse in college football. It's just, I think people don't realize how much money is going into it at the Floridas and the Texases of the world and Alabamas who are doing it every single year. Carolina's not putting that kind of money into it. And they don't have a stadium big enough to generate that kind of money. And by the time people are watching this, I think they'll know that there's going to be some additions to Kenan Stadium. They're going to hopefully generate some of that money. That's what you have to do. You've got to find a way for football to drive the entire athletic department. And Dick Bador has said and been very open about the fact that the athletic department now realizes football controls everything else. Without football, there may not be everything else. And so athletic department's committed to football being one of the very best programs in the ACC, and I think they would even tell you maybe that wasn't always the case in the past, and now that it is, you got Butch Davis, who is certainly one of the best coaches in the conference. I feel like they've reached the top half. It's a lot easier to go from the bottom to the top half than it is from the top half to the top, and now they just got to make the jump from the top half to the top.
And staying there with them making that jump and Dick Bador making football a priority, does that keep Butch Davis here longer?
I think so. I mean, I don't know that Butch Davis has ever said he wants to go anywhere else. I think people just kind of think he does because of his background, but he's been in the NFL. He's got a son who's in high school who I think he wants to see some and be able to go to his games. And as long as Carolina continues to be committed to football at the highest level, I think Butch Davis feels he can win here at that level, or else he would not have come here in the first place because he had some options to go elsewhere, and he chose this place. So you got to kind of stick your chest out a little bit and say, he chose this place. Carolina's good enough for him, and he's going to be here.
I know you just actually recently wrote an article on Tyler Zeller. I read it up on Tar Heel Blue. So can you talk a little bit about returning freshmen this year, Tyler Zeller? Well, now they're sophomores. Tyler Zeller, Ed Davis. How do you think they've improved since last season? What can we look forward to seeing them do this season?
I love Tyler Zeller. I think people kind of missed out on seeing how good he was last year because he got hurt.
Right.
But he was really good before he got hurt.
Yeah.
He led the team in scoring his very first game. He was in the starting lineup ahead of Ed Davis, so clearly had showed something in practice. I think he's going to be great. All the guys who came back rave about him. Larry Drew, going to get the chance to play point guard. He says he's worked really hard on his shot. His dad is one of the more respected shot doctors in the NBA, so they would shoot 500 or 600 shots a day this summer at home. And then Ed Davis, I mean, I think he's the one who people know how good he is because he was doing it last year. Can he stay out of foul trouble playing more minutes? Hopefully so. That was the only thing that got him a little bit last year. But he's that shot blocker that Carolina hadn't had since Brendan Haywood, which was almost 10 years ago. And that makes the rest of your defense a whole lot better.
Oh, wow, Brendan Haywood 10 years ago. That was one of my first games was when they played Wake Forest. That makes me feel old. Well, in your time with Carolina Athletics, have you seen a specific team, a specific year of the basketball team maybe that formed like a particularly strong bond?
With each other?
Yeah.
I think these last seniors who graduated in basketball, I mean, those guys really were as tight as everybody thought they were. Bobby Fraser, Tyler Hansbrough especially, throw Danny Green in there. Marcus Ginyard certainly is in that group, Mike Copeland. They hung out all the time, and it showed on the court. When they first got here, I remember Tyler and Bobby would ride these bicycles around campus, and it was crazy because they'd just roll up to the Smith Center in their bike and throw the bike down, and then Tyler would go out and score 40 on Georgia Tech, and then they'd go back and get on their bike and ride back over to the dorm. And it was just like that for 4 years. They were just as goofy as you think they were, probably even a little goofier than you think they were, but really good friends on and off the court. They lived together, and who knows what all went on in that house. But hopefully everybody made it out.
Okay, so that 2009 team hypothetically plays the 2005 team. What happens?
That's a good question. I think it would have to be the 2009 team at their peak against the 2005 team at their peak. So I mean, your best two matchups would be Felton against Lawson and then Hansbrough against May, because nobody could stop May in March and April of 2005. He picked the best time ever to have the best month a Carolina player's ever had. And I asked Coach Williams that same thing because everybody was talking about it this summer, and he said, well, I think Tyler and Sean would get in foul trouble, and they would kind of cancel each other out. So he said, I think you got to take them out of it. He thinks the 2009 team, and I'm going to answer for him because he's smarter than me. The 2009 team was such a good scoring team, that they might have a slight bit of an edge just because everybody they put on the court could put the ball in the basket at any time. And the 05 team didn't always have that. So maybe a slight, tiny edge to 09, but might depend on whose home court is hosting the game.
Right. Now, with the basketball team, you travel with them, is that correct?
Yes.
And you also travel with the football team, I believe?
I'm not traveling with football this
You're
year, but
not
I'm
this
traveling with baseball.
Okay. All right. Now, what is your favorite school or place to travel with either one of those teams? And why would that be? City?
We debate this a lot, just among the folks who travel on the road a lot. Virginia Tech is a great trip because the airport's right there at the school. So if you're looking for ease of trip, it's Virginia Tech. But the best city in the ACC is Boston. Going to BC, you know you're going to eat well. You're going to do something fun. There'll be something else going on there. Last time when we were there for baseball, the Hurricanes were up there playing the Bruins in hockey, so some of the guys went and did that. That's the best city in the ACC. Now, it might be snowing in -10 when you're there, but there'll be something to do. So that's the best pure trip in the league.
Okay, great.
Who's the athlete that you've most enjoyed covering?
That's a tough one. I really enjoyed spending some time with David Noel. He was just a good guy. He came in and nobody knew a single thing about him. And in fact, it was everybody else in his class who everybody was talking about. And I just remember being at a pickup game in the middle of the summer. It was probably like July 20th or something. And there was this guy down at the opposite basket, and he would stand flat-footed on the baseline, and then he'd jump up and do a windmill dunk, flat-footed. And I'd never seen anybody do that. And I said, "Who's that guy?" And Raymond Felton or somebody said, "Oh, that's David Noel." And I said, "You mean the football guy?" And he said, "Yeah, the football guy who's going to be on the basketball team." And he turned out to be such an important leader his senior year, and I think really shaped the seniors who just graduated, the Hansbrough, Ginyard, Frazier class. They learned under him for a year, and he was really important to them. And I don't know if they end up becoming what they were without him. And he had such an appreciation for Carolina basketball. He had grown up in the area. He understood it like the people who grow up around here do, and that made him even more special.